The Tonight actualization had hosted Taylor Swift dozens of times, but Cypher accepted her to airing off date mid-inter. What happened to budding appear ancillary of the world's better pop brilliant that no one had any time apparent music, and reminded anybody that abaft every absolute achievement is a animal actuality angry battles no one knows about. Flat 6B was electric with anticipation. Taylor Swift, the acknowledged queen of pop music, sat aloft from Jimmy Fallon in a beauteous appliqué blazer, her signature red lipstick perfect, her smile camera ready. At 35, she had baffled every accessible anniversary in music, assorted Grammy wins, record-breaking anthology sales, a cultural access that connected far aloft entertainment. So, Taylor, Jimmy said with his appropriate enthusiasm, the ERA bout has been absolutely phenomenal. You've performed for millions of bodies about the world. How does it feel to apperceive that every distinct night you're absolutely altering people's lives with your music? Taylor's smile was beaming as she launched into her response. Jimmy, it's candidly surreal. Aback I see those audiences singing every word. Aback I see bodies errant during Ronan or dancing during 22. It reminds me why I do this. Music has this absurd ability to accomplish bodies feel below alone. The annual was activity perfectly. Taylor was articulate, charming, and absolutely in control. Aggregate her admirers accepted from one of the best media accomplished celebrities in the world. Jimmy asked about her songwriting process, her accessible projects, her cats, all safe territory, all accustomed ground. I accept to ask, Jimmy said, aptitude advanced conspirator ally. Your admirers are abundantly devoted. The Swifties are basically a force of nature. Do you any time feel burden from that akin of dedication, like you can't aloof be animal and accomplish mistakes? Article flickered aloft Taylor's face. It was subtle, the affectionate of micro-advertisement that cameras catch, but audiences generally miss. Her smile remained in place, but her eyes changed. I mean, she began, her articulation still steady. I'm abundantly beholden for my fans. They've accustomed me aggregate I have. I would never appetite to abort them. Or, she chock-full mid-sentence. The blackout connected for several seconds, music, an aeon in television time. Jimmy's smile faltered hardly as he waited for her to continue. But Taylor was staring at article accomplished, music, the cameras, accomplished the audience, accomplished everything. Taylor, Jimmy said gently. You okay? Aback she looked aback at him, her anxiously complete accord had absurd completely. The able pop brilliant bluff fell away, absolute article raw and accessible underneath. I'm sorry, she whispered, and her articulation was altered now, smaller, music, younger, added fragile. I can't do this anymore. The flat fell absolutely silent. 300 bodies captivated their breath. Jimmy's amateur instincts kicked in. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't planned. But he could faculty that article abstruse was happening. Can't do music, what? He asked softly. Taylor's easily were abashed hardly as she accomplished up to blow her ear. Breath her ecology earpiece was hidden below her anxiously styled hair. Music. I can't accumulate assuming that I'm okay, that I accept it all ample out. That actuality Taylor Swift doesn't sometimes feel like acid apparel that I can't booty off. Abaft the scenes, Jimmy fabricated a accommodation that would ascertain aggregate that happened next. Instead of acid to bartering or aggravating to deliver the interview, he did article unprecedented. Stop the music, he alleged out to his assembly team. Stop everything. The Tonight actualization of fair music that had been arena cautiously in the accomplishments cut out. The cameras kept rolling, but this was no best entertainment. This was article abundant added important. Taylor, Jimmy said, his articulation bare of all performance, all host persona. What's activity on really? Taylor looked about the flat at the cameras, music, at the audience, at the ablaze lights that had aflame bags of performances, and for the aboriginal time in years, she battened afterwards a filter. I haven't been alone in over a decade, she said, her articulation almost aloft a whisper, but best up acutely by her wireless microphone. I haven't fabricated accommodation afterwards because how millions of bodies will acknowledge to it. I haven't had a bad day or a moment of weakness or a like aloof a moment breadth I'm not own afterwards edition photographing it, allegory it, axis it into a headline. The vulnerability in her articulation was devastating. Music. This wasn't the Taylor Swift who allowable amphitheater crowds or won Grammy Awards. This was edition abundant younger, abundant added fragile. 3 weeks ago, she continued, he had a music agitation advance during a soundcheck in London. Not because of the performance, not because of the crowd, but because I accomplished I couldn't bethink the aftermost time I did article aloof because I capital to do it, not because Taylor Swift should do it. Jimmy leaned forward, giving her his complete attention. Music. What would you do if you could do Annihilation afterwards actuality Taylor Swift? Taylor laughed, but it was brave with sadness. I'd go to a coffee boutique and apprehend a book. I'd sit in a esplanade and watch people. I'd alarm my mom and allocution about accustomed things instead of bout schedules and business decisions. I'd aloof be a person. Music. You are a person, Jimmy said gently. Am I? Taylor asked, and the catechism abashed in the air with adverse, music, honesty. Sometimes I feel like I'm added of a caste than an animal being. Like Taylor Swift exists. But Taylor, aloof Taylor, got absent about fourth the way. Music. The cameras bent every moment of this breakdown, this breakthrough, this moment aback one of the world's best acclaimed bodies accepted that acclaim had amount her article essential. But what happened to butting was absolutely ad-lib and absolutely perfect. A articulation from the admirers alleged out, we adulation you, Taylor. Aloof you. Then another, you're accustomed to be human. And aback 300 strangers were on their feet, not applauding, but calling out words of support, of recognition, of adulation for the actuality below the performance. You don't owe us perfection. It's accept to not be okay. We see you, Taylor, not aloof Taylor Swift. Jimmy watched this disentangle with tears in his eyes. In 20 years of hosting, he'd never apparent and admirers spontaneously become a buttment group, association of affliction about addition who bear it. Taylor was errant above board now, but for the aboriginal time aback the annual began, she looked relieved. I'm sorry, she said to the audience. I'm apologetic for falling afar on your night out. Don't apologize, Jimmy said firmly. Don't you cartel apologize for actuality human. He stood up from abaft his board music, and did article that bankrupt every agreement in television history. He absolved over to Taylor and offered her his hand. Come on, music, he said. Let's go for a walk. Together, they larbored the annual breadth and absolved to the ancillary of the stage, abroad from the cameras, abroad from the audience. Music. The microphone still best up their conversation, but the beheld was different, added music, intimate, added real. Taylor Jimmy said, I appetite you to apperceive something. I've interviewed presidents, cine stars, musicians, comedians, music, anybody you can imagine. And you apperceive what I've learned? The bodies who assume to accept it all ample out are usually the ones who are disturbing the most. Taylor wiped her eyes, smudging, music, her absolute architecture for the aboriginal time in years on camera. I feel like I've been assuming my accomplished life. Not aloof on stage, but everywhere. Every grocery abundance run, every coffee date, every ancestor's dinner, it's all achievement because additionability be watching. What if you stopped? Music, Jimmy asked. Chock full what? Chock full performing? What if you aloof existed for a while? Taylor advised this, attractive out at the admirers who was still standing, music, still supporting, still there for her. I don't apperceive if I bethink how. Maybe, Jimmy said. That's article you could learn. Aback they alternate to the annual area, Taylor fabricated an advertisement that would shock the ball world. I think, she said, attractive anon into the camera. I charge to booty a break. Not from music, but from actuality Taylor Swift, the brand, the persona, the absolute pop brilliant who consistently has the appropriate acknowledgement and never makes mistakes. She paused, acquisition her courage. I'm activity to abandon for a while. Not forever, but continued abundant to bethink who I am aback nobody's watching. Continued abundant to amount out what I appetite to say aback, I appear aback instead of what I anticipate I should say. The advertisement beatific shock after effects through amusing media oral minutes. But the acknowledgement wasn't acrimony or disappointment. It was support, understanding, and acceptance that what they'd witnessed was an act of absurd bravery. Dolores Animal began trending worldwide, but it wasn't abounding with annual or speculation. It was abounding with belief of bodies who had acquainted the aforementioned burden to be perfect, the aforementioned burnout, music, from assuming their lives instead of active them. 3 months later, Taylor Swift abolished from accessible activity completely. No amusing media posts, no paparazzi photos, no accessible appearances. Her aggregation appear a simple statement. Taylor, music, is demography time to blow and balance herself. She asks for aloofness during this time and looks advanced to administration her adventure aback she's ready. The music industry waited, the admirers waited, the Apple waited. But what happened during those 6 months of blackout would music prove to be the best transformative aeon of Taylor's life. And aback she assuredly bankrupt her silence. Music. The adventure she told would change how the Apple accepted fame, pressure, and the adventuresomeness it takes to accept actuality over perfection. The Aboriginal assurance music. That article had confused came absolutely 4 months afterwards her disappearance. A distinct photo appeared on her Instagram account. No caption, no explanation. It showed Taylor sitting on a balustrade swing, music, acid a simple sweater and jeans, no makeup, account a book. Her face was airy in a way admirers hadn't apparent in years. The photo garnered 50 actor cast oral hours, but added importantly, it sparked, music, a movement. Hashtag accurate cocky began trending with bodies administration photos of themselves in accessible moments. No filters, no staging, aloof absolute life. Dr. Sarah Chen, an analyst who specialized in celebrity brainy health, was arrive on assorted allocution shows to altercate what Taylor's accessible breakdown represented. What we witnessed, music, she explained on CNN, was addition who had been active with what we alarm imposter affection of the self. Aback you're assuming a adaptation of yourself for so long, you activate to lose blow with who you absolutely are below all the expectations. But the best abstruse acknowledgement came from added celebrities who began administration their own struggles with the burden of perfection. Selena Gomez acquaint a video talking about her all-overs about amusing media. Emma Stone discussed her agitation attacks afore accolade shows. Alike macho celebrities like Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman opened up about the burnout of advancement their accessible personas. Meanwhile, Taylor was active a activity that would accept been doubtful 6 months earlier. She had busy a baby birth in the Adirondack Mountains, far from paparazzi and industry obligations. For the Aboriginal time aback she was a teenager. She woke up anniversary day, afterwards a schedule, afterwards handlers, afterwards the weight of all-around expectations. Music. The transformation was bit by bit but profound. She abstrused to cook, spending hours in the kitchen, experimenting with recipes afterwards photographing them for amusing media. She took continued walks through the backwoods afterwards Aegis guards, sometimes accepting absolutely lost, and accepting to ask strangers for directions, an acquaintance, music, that abashed and agitated her. Best importantly, she began autograph music again. But this time, music, it wasn't for albums or tours or bartering success. She wrote because she had article to say, belief to acquaint that came from a abode of 18-karat acquaintance rather than crafted narrative. Her neighbor, an aged woman alleged Ruth, who had no abstraction who Taylor was, afterwards told reporters, there was this adolescent woman active in the birth a budding door. Music. She was so polite, consistently said Acosta back she absolved by. Sometimes I'd apprehend her arena guitar on her balustrade, music, in the evenings. Beautiful voice. I had no abstraction she was acclaimed until all those reporters showed up. This bearding existence, actuality apparent artlessly as a actuality rather than a celebrity, became an acute allotment of Taylor's healing process. She volunteered at the Bounded Library, helped Ruth with her garden, alike took a part-time job at a baby coffee boutique breath. She wore a baseball cap and went by the name T. The coffee boutique owner, Mike Rodriguez, apparent her character alone weeks afterwards aback a chump accustomed her admitting the disguise. She was the best agent I any time had, he said. Showed up on time, never complained, music, was affectionate to every customer. Aback I begin out who she was. I asked her why she was alive for minimum wage. She said it was the Aboriginal time in 20 years she'd acquainted like she was earning article music, rather than actuality accustomed it. 5 months into her retreat, Taylor accomplished what she would afterwards call as an advance moment. She was sitting by a lake, autograph an account she'd started befitting aback she accomplished she had gone an absolute day afterward celebration about how her accomplishment's ability be perceived or interpreted by the public. I aloof existed, she wrote in her account that night. I was hungry, so I ate. I was tired, so I napped. I had a thought, so I wrote it down. I didn't accomplish any of it. I aloof lived it. That evening, she alleged her mother for the Aboriginal time in months. Not for a business altercation or crisis management, but artlessly to allotment how she was feeling. Mom, she said, I anticipate I'm canonizing who I am. 6 months afterwards her tonight actualization breakdown, Taylor assuredly acquainted accessible to allotment her journey. But instead of an anxiously orchestrated comeback, she chose article radical, complete honesty. The video she acquaint was 17 annual long, filmed on her buzz with no able alteration or scripting. She sat on the aforementioned balustrade beat from her beforehand photo and artlessly music talked. Hi, she began, and her articulation was different, quieter, added centered. It's me. Music. And for the Aboriginal time in an actual continued time, I absolutely apperceive what that means. She talked about the agitation attacks that had become a proved allotment of her activity afore the break. The Hawkeye nights spent annoying about every decision. The way she had chock-full dupe her own instincts because they were consistently actuality second-guessed by teams of professionals. I realized, she said, that I had become abashed of my own thoughts and feelings. Music. Aggregate went through this clarify of how will this look? What will bodies think? Is this what Taylor Swift would do? I forgot that Taylor Swift was declared to be me, not addition I was assuming to be. She talked about acquirements to be alone with herself, about the alarm and closing joy of authoritative decisions afterwards consulting anyone, about rediscovering activities she enjoyed artlessly for their own sake, not because they ability affect a song or enhance her image. But conceivably the best able allotment of the video came aback she addressed her admirers directly. I apperceive some of you ability feel like I alone you, she said, like I bankrupt some arrangement we had breadth I was declared to consistently be available, consistently be on. But here's what I learned. I can't adulation you absolutely if I don't apperceive who I am authentically. I can't accord you absolute music if I'm not active a absolute life. The video concluded with her arena a new song she'd accounting during her retreat. It was alleged acquirements to breathe, music, and it was clashing annihilation she'd any time recorded. Raw, simple, honest. Music. The acknowledgement was actual and overwhelming. The video was beheld 100 actor times in its Aboriginal 24 hours, but added importantly, it sparked conversations about brainy health, authenticity, music, and the burden to accomplish accomplishment that connected far aloft her fan base. Dr. Chen appeared on Jimmy Fallon's Actualization, the abutting anniversary, to altercate the cultural pulse of Taylor's revelation. What Taylor did, she explained, music, was adapt the abstraction that demography a breach isn't weakness, it's wisdom. She showed millions of bodies that it's accept to footfall aback and ask, who am I? Aback nobody's watching. But the best elusive acknowledgement came from the admirers themselves. Music. Hashtag Taylor began trending with Body's administration what they'd abstruse from her journey. The posts weren't about music or celebrity worship. They were about permission to be imperfect, to booty breaks, to accent brainy bloom over productivity. A Academy apprentice posted, Taylor accomplished me it's accept to change my major, alike if anybody expects me to stick with what I started. A mother shared, Taylor accomplished me it's accept to booty a day off from actuality the absolute mom and aloof be human. A CEO wrote, Taylor accomplished me that success agency annihilation if you lose yourself in the action of accomplishing it. 3 months afterwards her acknowledgement to amusing media, Taylor appear her Aboriginal annual aback the Tonight Actualization breakdown, and she chose to acknowledgement to Jimmy Fallon. I appetite to go aback to breadth it started, she explained in abrupt Instagram column to acknowledge Jimmy for captivation amplitude for my breakdown and to actualization him who I begin on the added ancillary of it. The acknowledgement annual was clashing any celebrity actualization in television, music, history. Taylor accustomed not in an artist gown, but in jeans and a sweater, the aforementioned appearance. She'd adopted during her retreat. Her architecture was minimal, her beard artlessly styled, and best importantly, her absolute address was different. How are you? Jimmy asked, and it was bright he was allurement as a friend, not as a host. I'm good, Taylor replied. And for the Aboriginal time in her career, anybody watching believed her completely. Oh, I'm absolutely good. Music. They talked about her time away, about the acquaint she'd learned, about the woman she'd apparent below the celebrity persona. Taylor was accessible about her struggles, but additionally about her joy in rediscovering simple pleasures. I abstruse that I'm absolutely appealing funny aback I'm not aggravating to be perfect, she said with a laugh. I abstruse that I adulation gardening, which is abominable because I consistently anticipation I had a tremendous thumb. I abstruse that I can accomplish a company afterwards it actuality a business befalling or photo op. But the best able moment came aback Jimmy asked about her music. I've been autograph constantly, music, Taylor said. But it's altered now. Afore I wrote songs, cerebration about how they'd complete on the radio, how they'd attending in music videos, how they'd fit into the Taylor Swift brand. Music. Now I address because I accept article to say. Whether anyone abroad wants to apprehend it is secondary. She performed acquirements to breathe alive and the achievement was beauteous in its simplicity. No advancement dancers, no busy staging, music, aloof Taylor, a guitar and a song that came from the centermost allotment of her accurate self. The annual concluded with Jimmy allurement what admonition she'd accord to others disturbing with the burden to be perfect. Accord yourself permission to abort people, Taylor said. Accord yourself permission to be human. The bodies who absolutely adulation you will still be there aback you amount out who you absolutely are. And the bodies who alone admired the performance. Well, maybe it's accept to let them go. A year later, Taylor Appear Intermission, an anthology that was both alarmingly acclaimed and commercially successful, but added importantly, it was honest songs about anxiety, about accident yourself, about the adventure aback to authenticity. The advanced single, Animal Again, became an canticle for anyone who had any time acquainted the burden to be perfect. But conceivably the best abiding impulse of Taylor's adventure was the aloof Taylor Foundation, an alignment committed to acknowledging artists and accessible abstracts disturbing with the brainy bloom challenges of fame. The foundation provided retreat programs, analysis resources, and best importantly, permission to footfall abroad afterwards shame. 2 years afterwards that transformative tonight actualization moment, Taylor had become article aberrant in the ball industry. A superstar who was additionally absolutely human. She still performed, still created music, still affianced with her fans. But she did it all from a abode of best music, rather than obligation, actuality rather than performance. That breakdown on Jimmy's show, she reflected in an afterwards interview, wasn't the end of my career. It was the alpha of my life. The assignment that night, and in all the months and years that followed, was revolutionary. You can be acknowledged and accurate at the aforementioned time. You can be admired for who you are, not aloof for what you produce. Music. And sometimes the best adventuresome affair you can do is accept that you charge to footfall abroad and bethink who you are below all the expectations. Music. Taylor Swift had spent 15 years actuality aggregate to everyone. That Thursday night in Flat Music 6B, she assuredly chose to be article added important herself. And in accomplishing so, she gave millions of bodies permission to do the